We have Omar and Abdallah here. Welcome and thank you for giving us your time. And thank you everyone for joining the call today. Omar and Abdullah, it's my first time talking to you guys. So my name is Noha. I'm one of Jeddah Tribe members, and we're very, very excited to have you here with us and to have you share your knowledge and your expertise with us. So I'm going to keep my introduction very short and brief, and I'm going to leave it to you because I know you have a lot prepared for us to talk about today. So please feel free to take us through it.
All right. Can you guys see it now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So before we start, we just want to mention that the topics we are going to be covering today, each one of it will needs like a workshop on its own if we're going to like cover the whole details. So we'll only be covering the most important factors of it. However, if any of you guys have any specific questions regarding these topics or just any triathlon related questions, just make sure like you write them down or keep them so we can address them towards the end, where we will be having a question and answers segment. All right. So first of all, like how to reach the optimal performance. First of all, let me like briefly introduce ourselves first as a company. So Career International for Sports Leadership and Development is the sports-focused branch of a professional academic and training institute that has been running for the last 20 years and is currently based in Bahrain, Egypt, and Palestine. And on the personal side, Abdallah and I, we are the managing partners of this said branch. The two of us are certified by the International Triathlon Union and accredited coaches for level 1 and level 2. We are having our bachelor degree in chemical engineering and business administration. The two of us have our professional diplomas in sports management. And as some of you already know, we are also elite Palestinian triathletes. So the services that we offer at Career, we offer triathlon coaching, personalized training programs online throughout Training Peaks. We also offer testing and technique analysis, mainly for swimming and running. We offer physiological profiles and zone setting, triathlon workshops like the one we are having today, or just like a practical ones. And throughout our partnership with Tanyapura in Phuket, Thailand, we offer training camps, and also we have partnership with the International Climatic University that is based in Rome, Italy, where we offer a full online master's degree in sport and applied sports performance. And we work with all kinds of levels of athletes, from the beginner all the way to some of the best on the world. And the list includes Lando Norris, McLaren Formula 1 driver, and Red Bull Formula 2 driver Jehan Druvolo, David Fleche, Bahrain Endurance 13 athlete and former Ironman champion, and also Musa Qarish, professional duathlete, who has 2 top 5 finishes at the World Championships as a duathlete and as a runner. So now we get into the first. We're getting into the first topic.
So moving on to the first topic of the day will be the training progression, where we will be discussing the different training models and intensity distribution. Like actually, there are many intensity distribution models that the coaches are adopting. Like even if you go to the top coaches in the world and ask them about the training model that they are following, you'll have like so many different answers, because like they would agree on the fundamentals, but each one of them will have different approach regarding reaching like specific objective. And like one of like just like a few examples of the training models can include like the high volume, low intensity training model, or like the high intensity model, or the threshold focus model. Like there are some ways better than the some models are better than the others. However, there is no one right way of coaching, but like there are many wrong ways of coaching, especially in the region here around us. uh, Also, like there are some factors that are affecting the intensity distribution. The first thing could be the chronological age, which is just the age of the athlete. So, for example, like an athlete who's 12 years old will not be doing the same training as a 30 or 40 years old athlete. Also the training age, how long the athlete have been doing the sport. Like if they were doing it for like 1 year or like 5 years or 10 years, all of them will have like different training approaches. After that comes the background of the athlete, whether they come from a swimming background or running background or like no sporting background at all. So we need to understand this issue and address the training plan according to their needs and weaknesses and their like needs basically. Also, the availability of the athletes. All of us know that age group athletes are limited in time. They have like families and like
Or
working, like they work and just like the daily routine, the daily hustle. So their time is like really limited. So we need to adapt the training plan according to like to their availability, so we don't overstress them.
So here, for example, as you see, there are eight, I think, eight models here, and there are still more. So if you look at the best athletes in the world, for example, the Norwegians, because you see, like they post a lot about what they are doing. If you look closely, you'll see that no one is doing the same trainings as them. And then if you look at the other guys, such as with Joe Filio, such as Vincent Louis and Mario Mola, they are following a whole different criteria in their trainings. So it's not that one training plan is better than the other, because both of these guys are already winning. Both of them are achieving good results. It's more about like as a coach and as an athlete, you need to find like what works best for you, and then you need to know how to adapt it according to your needs and to your trainings to get your level constantly improving.
So also as well, like some of the factors could be the goals of the athlete, whether they just wanna like finish the distance or they wanna break their personal best, or they wanna be like a little bit competitive and they would need to like get a podium on their age category. And finally, the periodization of the training load. So like basically where we are at the season. So what we will be doing in the beginning of the season and where we are building the base and the foundation would be completely different from what we will be doing at the end of the season or when we are approaching races. This brings us to a very like important topic, which is the polarized training model. This is just like one of the training models that we've just mentioned, and simply it's just performing 85% to 80% of your trainings at low intensity, while the remaining 15 or 20% at high intensity, leaving nothing in the middle zone, or just like a small percentage of like threshold and tempo zone.
Which is actually, this is like one of the most well-known training criteria that has been followed by many endurance coaches and endurance athletes, simply because it has good results and there is good research behind it, and they're always like it delivers with the requirements.
So as we can see here, we have a study that was adapted in 2014 about different group of endurance athletes, including triathletes, cyclists, and like even cross-country skiers that followed like different training models over a period of 9 weeks. So like some of them followed the polarized training model. Others follow the high intensity interval training model, where they are only focusing on high intensity. Also, there are groups that follow the threshold and low intensity training models. After the 9 weeks period, they witnessed that like the polarized group witnessed the highest improvements. Like as we can see here, almost 12% increase in their VO2 max and 8% increase in their FTP. So even though that they are performing most of their sessions at like at low intensity, and that's like as Omar just mentioned, like even the top most of the elite endurance athletes in the world are following this polarized model. So simply the majority of their training plan is performed at low intensity. And as well, like we can conclude that the key for endurance athletes is to develop a long-term sustainable aerobic capacity, which means, and like we can achieve that just by performing a lot of easy sessions and like basically it's just the long rides, the long runs, and just like the easy stuff and the daily grind. No, so and one more thing as well, if you like, however, like we're discussing about like low intensity, but like if you spend all your training at low intensity, you reach a point where you're not be improving. So that's why we need to mix it up and add a little bit of high intensity. But the key here is about the dosage of high intensity that we're implementing in our trainings and the timing of this dosage. So as we know that the high intensity sessions stresses the body a lot and like has a huge, like can damage, like can have a huge stress on the body. That's why it's really important to monitor this high intensity. And like one of the training errors that recreational athletes do when they set a goal for themselves, for example, like let's say they want to finish an Ironman or like doing a like doing a marathon race, they set a specific period of time for themselves, like a short period, like 3 months or 6 months, and they would end up doing like too much, too fast, too soon, meaning they would do more than what they are capable of doing at a higher intensity that they are supposed to follow in a short period of time. So basically, they are not following progression pattern. So yeah, I think yeah, that's it about the polarized model. Now, like just one more thing, I don't wanna. I'm not saying here that you should be following the polarized training model. I'm just like discussing the effects and benefits of a polarized training model, which might not work for you. Like it can work for some like certain athletes. However, it might not be working for another athletes. That's why there are many factors that are affecting the intensity distribution, as we mentioned previously.
And this is just like to focus on the main point that we have mentioned earlier, which is like there is no one specific way of doing it. It really is just like a try and error, whether you are an athlete or as a coach, and try to find like the most tailored and the most specific training plan for you that suits you. So here comes like the main question, like what's the optimal training load? How much should you be training and how much should you do? And to that question, the answer is
simply it's the sustainable workload over a long period of time.
okay. Let us repeat it again, because this is a really important topic. Like the optimal training load that an athlete should be doing
is the sustainable workload over a long period of time. And like there is no size that fits all. So each one like it should be adopted to each individual differently. And like when we talk about sustainable training, when we talk about sustainable workload, what I mean is like, for example, let's say an athlete who like is able to train 10 hours a week. We need to try our best to maintain this 10 hours for as long as possible. Like right now, I'm not discussing about the recovery weeks. I'm just like discussing the workload. So like an athlete who's being consistent, like 10 hours, who's like you're being consistent through the weeks, like doing 10 hours of workload, would have so many benefits compared to an athlete who's like performing, like one week is doing like 15 hours of training, and like the next week he's doing like only 5, and the week after like 10, and like he's not being consistent. So again, in order to achieve our best performances, we need to find the sustainable workload for us, and as well we need to progress with this workload. So we don't want to be doing too much too soon. So progressive overloading, and we want to try to be consistent as long as possible with this workload.
Because after all, triathlon, as you already all know, it's not like a sport where it just like takes a few weeks or a few months or even a year. Like this is like you're just building like good base. You're building for the fundamentals. You're putting then layers on top of each other. So by having this really strong base, it will carry you throughout like throughout your future. One athlete that we are currently working with is Musa Karish, the professional duathlete that I just mentioned. Musa has been doing like running on the highest level as a professional runner first, and now as a duathlete for more than 15 years now. So like basically, even if he stops for a few months right now at his level, completely stop, do nothing, he can be back into his peak in just like a couple more months back to trainings, simply because the guy has spent like many years during the beginning of his career in building a really strong base that has still until this day carrying him and pushing him forward to achieve his goals, to achieve the good times that he's doing, and to like get the follow the his world championship dream where he's actually capable of.
So basically, it's like building a really good foundation and a base, and start adding layers over this foundation progressively. That's as simple as that. That takes us to the next topic, which is the physiological profiles. And in simple terms, physiological profile is a series of tests that over like different metabolic zones in order to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the athletes. It can be as complicated as lab testing, or it could be as simple as simple time trials. Like here, we have the cycling physiological profiles of one of our athletes. We tested him across different metabolic intensities in order to identify his strengths and weaknesses, and we adjusted his zones accordingly, and that helped us prescribe the training plan for him. Like I think most of you are familiar with the FTP test, which is on the bike, which is like 20 minutes all out, and then you calculate your functional threshold power. Here in this test, we performed the FTP test in addition to 3 tests that tested different metabolic intensities. And like the thing with FTP is that it's limited. It doesn't give us the whole picture. It only tests like one intensity zones, which is the threshold, but it doesn't give us a clear idea or accurate data about the maximum aerobic power or like the anaerobic capacity or anaerobic power. That's why it's really important to know like the reasons behind these tests.
So like this now, the physiological profile basically, like to even simplify more what he said, it has 2 purposes, one for the athlete and one for the coach. First, as an athlete, it gives you a guidance into like what targets and what times should you be targeting during your trainings and during your racing. That's like in this is because we have cycling here. It's like how many watts should you be pushing, for example, at threshold pace, how many watts you should be pushing when you're doing a VO2 max set or similar. As well, if we have like running and swimming, we have similar physiological
same
profiles.
principle applies.
And then as a coach, like this is the most essential thing for a coach, because now when you test the athlete, you have like a wide picture into what the athlete's weaknesses and what his strengths are at this specific stage of the year. So basically, it gives you a guidance and it gives you a guidance on what you should be like your next training block is.
And actually, this is like the minimum and a coach can offer to their athletes. Like without this, without like these tests and physiology, and actually, like let me make a thing clear here. Like testing and collecting data is one thing, and knowing what to do with these data is a whole different story. Like I've seen so many coaches that they are testing their athletes and collecting data just for the sake of testing, without like having a clear purpose.
And like one unfortunate thing that we have here that's widely spreading around in the region is you have, for example, athletes who start doing like ITU or Ironman for a couple of years. They follow like a training plan with an online coach or something. And then like these people, they start delivering coaching themselves and giving their athletes the same sessions that they used to do without any like physiological science behind it. They are just like they are training for the sake of training. And the thing is, like if you have a new athlete, whatever you give him, whatever you give him to do, he'll always improve because this guy is coming from a background where he did nothing at all. So when he starts doing the minimum work, you'll start seeing results.
However, like you reach a point where he will stop improving, and actually it could lead to like if the training is not done right, he could be like burned out or like injured.
And that's why it's important. Like we go back again to the main topic, which is building the base and building the fundamentals. Because if the guy who has like a really fast like improvement, he will reach to a point where he stops, while the other guy, even if like the improvement is slow, or even if it stops a little bit, it's a constant building, step by step, to hopefully reach the target and the goals.
And one of the most important aspects here is the understanding of the physiological adaptations and effects of each training session. Because like each training session that we prescribe should have a purpose. Like no session, like on the training plan, should be like written just like without any purpose. Like each session has a purpose, and each like if an athlete goes to their coach and asks them about the reason behind a certain workout they are doing, and that coach doesn't have a clear explanation for for why they are doing what they are doing, then that coach is just doing like playing like a guess game, like just throwing in random workouts without really understanding the effects behind each training session. And let me give you an example, just like small example of like a training session. Let's say 4 times 1K with 1 minute, it's a running session, 4 times 1K with 1 minute rest, versus the same workout, 4 times 1K, but now with 4 or 5 minutes rest, depending on the athlete's level. Both of them might be similar in like this sense. However, like by changing one variable of the equation, which is the rest time, we're working on different completely physiological adaptations in both sessions, where like one of the sessions will be working on anaerobic threshold, while the other session will be working on VO2 max. So that's why it's really important for the coach to understand the reasons behind what they are prescribing in the training plan. And as well, it's really beneficial for the athlete as well to have like to understand why they are doing what they are doing, just like to believe in more in the process, and just like to enable them to push whenever it's time to push, and to take it easy when it's time to.
So basically, as an athlete, if you have a coach, if you ask him and he doesn't know the answer for it, or he doesn't do this kind of stuff, which is literally the bare minimum, I'm afraid that you need to be looking for a new coach, unfortunately.
All right. So moving on to the.
So like importance of efficient technique. We're not going to go into the details of every like what the correct technique is for your running or your swimming, because this is more of like a practical focus. But basically, as common sense, like importance of efficient technique, it helps you with your improved economy. And by economy here, we mean like how much energy you are doing for a certain speed or a certain distance. So, and also it makes you faster and it prevents the injury.
So basically, you're doing the same effort. I mean, like you're doing like a certain distance at a certain speed with less effort. That's what he means by economy.
And of course, how to fix and improve the technique throughout technique analysis and throughout like drills and these kind of stuff. So, for example, one thing we do at Career, we do like the swim analysis. Here we have some examples of like former athletes or clients. We have done it with them. So basically, if you look onto the right pictures, so what we do is for the swim analysis is that we take like 6 different videos from 6 different angles, above and under the water. And the stuff that we look at is like their body alignment, their head posture, their breathing, their arm recovery, their hand entry, and all kind of stuff that covers their technique. And then like once we collect all these data, and once you collect these data, you have like we make the now this is an example of ours. I'm not saying that you should come and do it with us, but I'm saying like one way to improve the like throughout analysis, to improve the technique throughout the analysis. And then like once you have the data that you can work with, then you go into like seeing what went wrong, what the flaws are, what the strengths are, and then like you compare it with what he should be doing, and then you're correcting these stuff. So basically, like one motto that that one coach once said is that if you don't test, it's basically a guess. So if you don't test it, you're just guessing. So it's important to be constantly working into analyzing the stuff and working into improving them.
And as well, like for the running or like even swimming or like even the bike, it could be as simple as like taking your phone and like recording a video of yourself, like doing like running or like swimming at a trace pace, for example, and then checking for the mistakes and flows that you are doing.
And sending it to your coach.
Yeah. And one of the things as well, like to improve the, like to fix your mistakes and like flaws in your technique, you need to do like certain drills to improve like certain drills to work on these specific flows. So like what could be like what I could be doing wrong is might not be the same that my brother is doing wrong. So each of us would be like would work in different aspects.
And this is actually what's happening with us. Like to use ourselves as an example, Abdallah and I, we have been like doing sports for almost 13 years now. Since day one till now, we train together. We have done all of our sessions together throughout with teammates or just the two of us. And we have pretty much the same level during trainings. We hit the same times. We have like almost the same strength on the bike and everything. But then when we reach into these kind of stuff, when we need to do our training drills that our coach assigned to us or that we are doing, like each one of us will be doing his own stuff because we are built differently and everyone's built differently from one another. Some of us have bad habits during like in water or while running or cycling that we have been doing for many years. So this can take even longer to improve. So that's why it's important when it comes to drills. It's not about just like going online, finding like this guy is doing this and that guy is doing this, or like my remote is doing that, so I need to do it to improve. No, it's like basically have like finding out what your flows are, and then try to look and research into how you can improve it yourself.
Right. So now this is like a really crucial topic here. It's the open water skills.
So basically, like for the coach and for the athlete, there are some certain skills that will happen certainly during the race. So it's important to try to incorporate as much as you can of racing as much as you can throughout your trainings. So that's basically throughout like some training such as like sighting and navigation, which is the way where you go look out during the water, during the swim segment where you'll be looking for the buoy, or like you are fighting with other athletes and you need to find your track, or just like drafting. Here we have the picture on the top. There are like 5 different, even more maybe, positions for drafting the race. So it's important for you, for the athlete and for the coach to have these kind of sessions during their training sessions. So basically maybe by like making your athletes or like swim one by one, or if you are training group with no coach, like to start playing around yourself, trying different positions so you know what works best for you. So basically if you find yourself into the position in a race where you are surrounded by people who are similar in the same speed, you already know what to do. You won't have those small panicking moments. So for example, with some of our athletes, sometimes you would jump with them in the water, would have other athletes with them, just to make them feel that they are that they are going throughout the race right now. So like sometimes tell them like hit each other, or try to find like the best drafting position for you, or maybe like take off your goggles and swim without it. So like these scenarios happen in a race. So when you are already used to it in trainings and when you already know these kind of stuff, when it happens during the race, you just go like autopilot, you know. It's not like something that will requires like panicking. You won't be panicking or anything.
And like just by developing these specific skills, you can take your time in the swim just like by so many minutes without even working on your fitness. So it can take up like you can save up to like 3 minutes or like it might be more. Because like I like many people after they finish a race, they will be using their GPS watches and they will check the distance that they have swum. Like for example, for a half Ironman, like where the distance is 1.9 kilometers, they would end up swimming like maybe more, maybe 2K, maybe 2.2 kilometers. And that basically because of their poor open water skills. And just like a short story about like that happened with us actually. Like my brother and I, like all as he just mentioned, we always train together and always have the same times. And like we have another friend of ours, he's also an elite triathlete. So the three of us have the same training times in the pool. And like maybe in sometimes like we would be faster by like 1 or 2 seconds in the pool. But when we go to races, that our friend would end up like swimming faster than myself for like by 1 minute, and I would end up swimming faster than Omar, my brother, by 1 minute and a half.
This was like something that we really struggled with, like especially like the first, like in the beginning of our careers when we did the switch from swimming to triathlon, because we used to be like a pool swimmers. We used to be part of the national team as swimmers and for Palestine. So once you took us out of the lane, where each one of us during a race has his own lane, we're just following the line, and then put us around like another 40 or 50 athletes who everyone is be fighting for his life basically, and everyone be pushing each other. Like we used to panic a lot. So like we know, and I'm telling you that we used to swim for 10 years when we did the switch. So like these stuff, like it's really important, like something that can be neglected but can have like a really huge difference in your overall time during the races. So like we mentioned the sighting navigation drafting, also the starts and exits. Like every start and exit is different. So like one advice we can give is for the racing, like before the race, either the day before or during the race morning, try to do like a few steps. If it's a running start, try to take like a few steps before the race, so you can tell like how deep the water is, and start counting them. Like for example, every time we have a like a running dive start, what's it called, the beach start race, sorry, just like the picture we have here down, you always have like to count these steps. So when a race comes, like you already know. So like for example, let's say 4 steps before the water gets too deep. So like when you start your race, you'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you jump straight into the water. It really is, they're like small, simple stuff, but they can make huge difference. And also for the pacing, you'd see like you'd have like, this is something I struggled with myself because I used to be a sprinter when I'm back as a swimmer. I'm used to like going all out too early. And then like when I started doing triathlon, even till that now, I still struggle with it a bit. Like I still can't manage to I can pace myself really good in the pool, but during like the race, I tend like to start way too hard. I'd be like going for the first two guys, the first 100 meters, and then I start like slowing down a little bit. So it's one more thing as well for the athletes and for the coaches to do during their trainings.
And of course, all these skills should be developed on training. So when you go to race day, you're like
You don't want to do, of course, new stuff during race day. So
and you don't want to keep thinking about it because it will just make your life like
and
harder.
one thing we forgot to mention here is also like the wetsuit is like taking it off, because you feel like you'd see like many people, like we know many people, they'd go like, I'm not gonna, they have a race, they'll be like, the wetsuit is optional, and they'll be like, I'm not gonna wear my wetsuit, and they were like asking them why. It's like, because like if the wetsuit is gonna like save me 3 minutes, 2-3 minutes in the water, I'm just gonna waste this in transitions. And like this is like we were surprised because literally taking off the wetsuit shouldn't take more than 10 seconds. And they're like,
let's say like 15 to 20 for like
for
recreational
for Ironman and age group athletes, but like for like elite, it shouldn't take more than 10 seconds. It's literally just like you should be able to learn. Like it's basically a skill that you need to learn and incorporate in your trainings as well.
because like the wetsuit can save you, like can make you swim faster up to 10 seconds per 100, which is like a big drop in your time.
Okay,
Right. So now comes the tapering. So like as we know, like after like training for like like many months and like putting on the workload and like training really hard, just before like 2 weeks or 1 week before we reach our race, like we need to taper. And basically tapering is like tapering is like dropping the volume down and just like to get back your muscle glycogen storage back to its peak level and getting the body ready and fresh for the race. But like there are many factors that affect the taper, so that's why there's no like one right way of tapering.
So one thing for when it comes to tapering, so basically there are two important factors to keep in mind, the volume and the intensity. So as Abdullah mentioned, the volume, it's negotiable. Like you take the volume down and you need to take the volume down, but the intensity is not. You cannot like, you need to maintain the intensity during the taper period, which is as well something that is not widely common here. Like it's not during this part of the region. Like you'd have people doing Ironmans, they'll be like, I'm gonna take a complete off, or I'm not gonna do any intensity
Or
work
just yeah, exactly.
because I don't want to get tired during the race. But actually, it's not. Like once you take the volume down, your body will relaxes and you'll have the recovery. But the intensity is the one that will keeps your body pumping for the race day.
Because you don't want to be reaching race day like being too rested.
So here comes the question: what's the best way to taper? Honestly, there is no like one way to taper because there are so many factors to be taken into consideration. As up until this day, we still like before every race we do like different kind of tapering because every race is different. For example, the importance of the race, we will be having like an A race, a B race, or a C race. So like an A race is the most important race of the season for us. This is the one that we will be like working throughout the whole year just preparing for it, whether it be like an Asian Championships or the West Asian Championships or whatever race that we set. Of course, a B race, it's like a less important race that can be like a regional one, and a C race is just like a training race. So obviously, on an A race, you want to make sure that you are tapered properly and you want to attack the race as best as you can. But then for B and C races, it's not necessarily to taper as much, simply because it's just part of your trainings and you just like want to get this training benefits from.
also one of the factors that are affecting the tapering is the training load that you're doing before the race. Let's say if you're going through a high training load before a certain race, you would need to taper a little bit longer. For example, let's say two weeks. You need 2 weeks to taper. However, if your training load is low, you don't necessarily need to taper for a long period of time. It could be only a week or like even just like few days before the race. And as we said as well, like it's individualism. It's different for every person.
And after all, as well, there are like some preferences that come to each athlete. These stuff that might not be like, for example, scientifically proved or something. It's just like each athlete has his preferences. If he feels like doing something works good for him, even if it doesn't, even if like on paper like it doesn't work, it's okay. Like he can do that. Like because after all, the main important factor of tapering is to make the athlete reach for the race day possible performance. That's like for trainings, physically and mentally as well.
So, like the things that you need to keep in mind as well in tapering, as Omar mentioned, like we need to decrease the volume, but like maintain a little bit of intensity, so we don't reach the race like really like rested.
And also like no hero sessions. And by hero sessions, we mean it's like, every one of us has like one of those sessions where he absolutely hammers himself and go all out. He'll start hitting personal bests and trainings and stuff. And even though that could be good sometimes, you should never be doing that during tapering, because basically, as the next point states, like the work is done. This is just like a matter of trying to maintain the good load that you have done throughout the whole month of working.
And like you're not gonna gain fitness in this like 1 week or two, like 2 weeks.
Or one session. You're not gonna gain fitness from this session.
Like I remember before one of the races that I raced this year, like I was in a really good shape, but like just like 1 week before the race, I was tapering, and like few days before the race, I had my last training session, my last hard training session, and I was just like I wanted to make myself like 100% sure that I'm like fully ready for the race, and I ended up like pushing really hard on that workout, and I ended up getting like a huge personal best in that training. And I was like really happy about that personal best, and I was like, I'm so ready for this race, and can't wait to race. And when I reached race day, I ended up having one of my worst performances ever, simply because I left my personal best in the training ground and burned all my matches before even reaching the race.
All right. So okay,
So now the second part of our workshop we'll be talking about like racing.
racing.
So this is a really crucial topic as well, like racing in a different time zone.
And this is something that that like everyone struggles with. Any athlete who needs to go for any races, like he struggles with, especially for us who live during this region in the GCC. We know that like the weather, like the timing and the weather and then the whole environment is so much different than any literally any other race you do. Even if it was like in other Middle Eastern countries, the GCC is different. So if you manage to master the skill of training in these kind of circumstances, you'll be able to deliver the performances that you are looking for on race day.
So when you're racing in a different time zone, like there will be a huge effect on your like internal circadian clock, and you'll be jet lagged. So like for example, like the timing of your race day might be just uh,
Is someone's microphone unmuted or is the voice coming from here? Because
Um, I'll try to make sure that all the
yeah,
microphones are muted.
yeah,
yeah.
Okay,
All right.
done.
Sorry for that.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so like what happens is that for example, the timing of your race day might be like your sleeping time in your country. So you really need to adjust this difference with the timing zone.
and this is something like we had like in the past back. I remember in 2018, like we had a race in Japan, and the time difference here in Japan, I'm not sure if it's like 5 or 6 hours where we were racing. So like basically racing over there, like the race start, the timing of the race would be like our sleeping race here, if I'm not mistaken, if I don't remember properly. So what we did is like we shifted like our whole like our last few weeks of living here in Bahrain.
Bahrain.
We changed our times to make sure that we do our intense sessions at the same time that we'll be having our race. So like we ended up like doing intense sessions like early in the morning, like 3 a.m. or something or 2 a.m. Simply because we knew that our race is going to be at this time, so we want to make sure we are as ready as possible and to be able to
So
perform.
this is one of the advices that we can give when you're racing in different time zone. Is just like to shift your day according to the country you are traveling with.
Of course, as well, we know that this can be hard sometimes, especially if you have a family or you have a work or like university or school commitments. But it's important, like if you can manage to do it, you'll be surprised with how much of a difference it can make. Or one more thing, if you also have like the opportunity to travel like before, to travel a few days prior to the race, so you can get rid of the jet lag, that could be a good thing.
So like there's a rule of thumb of like for every 1 hour of
Difference.
time difference, you need like to travel one day before. So let's say there's a 5 hour difference between the country you're living in and the country you'll be
Race.
racing at. You need to travel like 5 days before it.
At least, and this doesn't always work as
Yeah.
well, like all the time, because like we had past experiences where we had last year when we traveled to the Philippines, like there's like 5 hours difference or 4 hours difference, and we went like 4 hour 5 hours, and we still felt jet lagged and we still felt tired even on race day, and we knew like before the race started we knew that we were going to have a bad day simply because of that the body wasn't actually working during like warming up. So like it's important to have like at least one day for every hour. If you can more, it's always
It's
good.
even better. All right, and as well, like one really important topic is the environmental differences. So like whether you're at the country you're racing at, whether like this country is like whether the race will be like in a cold country or like a hot weather, or like the race course will be hilly or like technical. So all these should be taken into consideration. So like you are fully prepared before you reach race day.
So one thing here, and then the environmental differences, is for example now as well, because in the GCC now it's summer, it's getting like really, really hot. And you'd find people who tell you like, yeah, like training in the heat will actually make you strong, it will make you improve and make you achieve personal best, like it will make you stronger. But like, I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. Because if it was actually happening, if the heat training would have made you that strong, you'd have like the top athletes in the world coming here during summer. So basically the only reason the top athletes might train in the heat is because they have a race that's gonna happen in a hot country. And that's like they train in the heat to get acclimatized to the heat. And even that, like the whole heat acclimatization takes only 14 days.
Like say 9 to 14
Nine,
days, depending on the
yeah,
athlete.
9 to 14 days. So basically, like if you train for months and months during hot weather, you're just overstressing your body because you'll not be able to push, and you're just like over damaging yourself
Yeah, exactly, because the heat affects the performance a lot negatively.
in trainings. Yeah,
And the last factor here in this
food.
topic is the food. Like
Th-
you need to make a really good research about the food that you'll be having on the country that you will be racing at.
this is something that can be overlooked because like for us like we do most of our races in Asia and around and mostly in the
Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia, and unfortunately for the two of us we don't like Southeast Asian food. So like a few years ago, back in 2016 2017, we had like our first ever trip to Southeast Asia. It was to Malaysia. And when we went there, we weren't ready for what was happening. And we ended up like staying there for a week, literally just like running on solar and running on solar power. We didn't eat anything because like we were in an abandoned place. We didn't have like any access to food or drink or like proper food or drinks the way that we like. So like now, like ever since, there isn't a race that goes by or a trip or a training camp where the two of us don't go with like a carrying bag where we have our own food for at least like the first week or so. So this is something, especially if you're going for an A race, it's important to like you already start considering these kind of stuff. You don't want to go to the race, the country, and be surprised by everything that's going on around you. So
So yeah, like you need to have like at least like some food that you are used to, because you don't want to try something new, because that might affect you negatively as well.
okay, so the pre-race activation, we have the picture of our two handsome models. So the pre-race activations basically is like the last intense training you do prior your race, and that's like that would usually be like 2 days prior race or 1 day prior race or 3 days prior race. It depends from one athlete to another.
So like many people, like many recreational athletes would like have that belief that before the race day they need to take it completely off. Like the day before the race, they would like do nothing at all, and they will just like lay down and just like relax. Actually, what happens is that after taking a full day of no training, your body will be a little bit lazy and will need like to start all over again. So you don't want to let that happen. So many athletes and even like the top athletes, what they will do is 2 days before the race, they would have a full day off, and then the day before the race, they would do some kind of activation, just like simple like workouts, just short in duration, but
Short,
like
like with some short sprints as
yeah,
well.
like
And
race
then
pace efforts, but like it's all short, just like to activate the muscles. And as well, like this is really individualized. So some people, like for us, for example, we prefer to take our day off 3 days before the race, and the day after our off day, we would do just easy session, and we do our activation the day before.
so this is truly is like an individualized sort of thing. Because for example, like one of the best athletes in the world, Henry Schoeman, who's like an Olympic bronze medalist and a Commonwealth champion. During like the last summer, we had the opportunity to train with him during a training camp in Phuket, Thailand, and he told us that 2 days prior his race, prior any race, we'd go for like a complete like strong fartlek run session. This is something that might seem like for us, this might seem like a bit crazy, or to others, like why would I go like for like for a complete fartlek session or a tough
And a
one?
really hard swim as well
And
the
I really
same day.
and he does a really hard swim. on the same day. But like for him,
It works.
it works. And he did like, I'm pretty sure, of course, like this is one of the best athletes in the world. He did like lots of experiments. He has like a big experience during races where he tried different sort of things, and he believed that this is the best way for him. So our advice for you for the pre-race activation is basically you just gotta need keep trying to find out what works the best for you. But of course you don't want to go for the race and try it. You can try it during trainings. So let's say, for example, you have a day where you have like a really important session, let's say like a homemade triathlon or a strong break session or something. Maybe you can play around with that, like the day before it or 2 days before it, you do like a pre-race activation, just like to emulate like a race scenario as what you would do. And then like you try looking around what works best for you and what doesn't. And then
And trust me, like pre-race activation,
if
if
done
done
right,
right, can make wonders.
yeah.
Yeah, and
It,
like even like a good warm up,
yeah,
they
even like during, and then comes to the next topic, which is like the morning warm up for the race. Also, this is one thing that differs from one athlete to another. But almost everyone you need to like needs to be doing like some sort of intense work or some sprints, just like to
to
get the
live
body pumped up and ready.
and like elevate the heart rate and get you ready for the race.
So for example, like for us, because during the races, like triathlon races, we only do like sprint and Olympic distances, the ITU races. Usually, like in the morning, we wouldn't run because like we tried it before and we feel like running
Affects
warm up
our swimming.
affects our swimming and it doesn't work good with us.
But
So
that's only for us. Like some people prefers actually to run before the race. So as we said, it's no size fits all.
yeah, so what we would do is like we would warm up for around 20 to 30 minutes on the bike. We'd do some sprints and then we'd go like do a swim loop around the course, like around 750 meters or something. We do as well some sprints. We do some starts as well to count the steps, as I mentioned before, and some exits. And even then, like for the race day warm up as well, there are some stuff to take into consideration, such as the race timing, the race environment where it's happening. Because like one time, for example, I had a race on my own, the first time for me where I didn't have Abdallah with me. And that race, I knew that it was going to be like a really demanding race during the bike. So I knew like my racing plan that I had with my coach was to go for the whole bike course on my own. I knew that I had like the strength and the skill and the fitness at that time to go for the whole 20K on my own and make a big difference. So basically during that day in the morning, I did like 55 minutes warm up on the bike as opposed to the 20 minutes that I would usually do during any race. Obviously, it worked like really well on the bike for me. It affected me on the swim, but on the whole, on the overall race, it was the best decision. So yeah, it's literally just like a try and error and trying to find out what works best for you and for the race.
So so the last topic of today will be talking about the nutrition, the pre-race meal, and like during the race, what you should eat and what you should not, and the post-race meal.
So basically, we are not nutritionists, so we cannot as well let you know like what you should be doing and what you should be eating. Like you should be consulting a specialist for that. But like what we can tell you is like you need to take it like easy. It's not like some rocket science. You have like the best athletes in the world. We can guarantee you that 99% of them they don't follow any nutritional plan. They just keep it simple. They eat what works for them and what makes them comfortable.
And as well, like you don't want to experiment something new before a really important race that you're not like used to. So for example, you don't want to follow anything that just because someone told you that worked for me, or like you need to carb load, you need like or you need to cut the carbs 2 days before and then eat a lot of carbs the day before. Like you need to experiment what works best for you.
And that comes to the gels, the electrolytes that you drink. You always want to have vet in training. So I'm pretty sure like at least like every one of us has at least one race where he went to a race where he's just like, I'm just gonna take this gel, I'm gonna take this one, and he didn't try it before, and unfortunately it countered back with them being like having stomach aches or like cramps, muscle cramps, or any sort of thing.
So yeah, like also, but like some advices, the general advices that we can give during the last week of like in the taper, for example, like you don't want to eat the same quantity that you were eating before when you are training, because simply you are training less now, so you don't want to eat the same quantity. So you want to shorten like to decrease the quantity a
Even
little
though
bit.
like your body will actually be like requiring more. Like sometimes you'd eat and you feel like I'm still hungry, like you want to go back to the same quantity. It happens to everyone simply because your body is used to consume like
A
a
huge
specific amount of food. So basically, once your training or the volume goes down and you eat the same thing, you end up gaining weight, and this is the last thing you need to do, like gain a kg or two for like in the last 2 weeks prior to the
So
race.
just keep it simple and don't try anything new. Because even like the top athletes that we've raced with and or like even met or like have had contact with, nobody of them, no one of them like follows, as Omar said, like previously, a
A specific
specific plan. And
nutritional
like they
plan.
don't do like carb loading or any kind of different strategy during like for nutrition. They just like keep it simple and they decrease the quantities of that
That's
what they are already eating. And also like you want to stay away from vegetables like 3 days before the race,
it's
simply because
fibers.
it has like a lot of fibers and you don't want to end up wanting to go to the bathroom during the race. So mid-race nutrition, that's really important
Topic.
topic, especially for longer distance triathlons, for like a half Ironman and full Ironman. Like in sprint and like in sprint distances, it doesn't really matter. In Olympic, it's kind of like
It is
matters to,
important.
yeah, it's important. But like for the longer stuff, like it's really crucial because like even if you've done everything right, like 100% of your trainings like right, and you have like the best fitness ever, not having a good plan for your race can ruin the whole race for you, and you'll end up having a really bad day.
And let me like tell you like a short story here. Back in 2018, we had like the Asian Games, which is like the biggest competition on Asia. This is the second biggest competition after the Olympics. It happens once every 4 years. So this was our A race for the year. And that day it was happening in Indonesia, and Indonesia it's like humid and it's hot. So like my training, like my nutrition plan was simple. I knew what I needed to drink. I had like 2 bottles that I had like filled for a certain amount. I had 3 gels for me, and I knew that throughout my trainings I need to consume this during like the whole race to be able to perform well. But then like what happened is like the what happened like the night before the race, it like skipped training a lot, and when the race came it wasn't actually as hot as it should be. And I ended up like this is like one mistake as well I did, but this is something that you gain with experience too. I ended up like consuming the same thing that I had in mind, because this is something that I had worked on for months. And when it came to the bike, I consumed everything. I drank my bottles, I took my gels, and then when I went through the run, after the first lap, I was like, okay, I didn't know if I'm gonna finish or not, because like I had like a really strong stomach ache, and I walked a little bit. Then I ended up like it relaxed a bit, and I ended up like running, and it was like loosened up a bit. So it's important as well, like to be trained for something, to try something in your trainings, but also to be able to know how to adapt it on race day.
Yeah, because sometimes it depends on the weather, as he just mentioned, or as well like on the effort. Like sometimes you'll feel bloated during race, so you don't want to have like so many gels or so. Yeah, like
So
basically,
don't be scared like to take decisions mid race.
yeah.
And for the post race, obviously just like have a good amount of protein or something, the common
Like a
known.
good meal of protein and carbs, just like to help you
Maybe a shake as well, like a
recover.
protein shake if you have it, just to speed it up the recovery
Yeah,
process.
and like one last thing here about like after you're done with your race, the next day after your race, it's really important to do just like an easy spin on the bike or just like any kind of
We
recovery
call it just
session.
like a flushing set.
Yeah, because like your legs will thank you for that. Otherwise, like if you take the whole day off
The
after like a really hard session,
the whole lactate and the whole fatigue will just gonna sit into your body,
yeah,
and it'll be even harder to
yeah.
get rid of
So
later
it's
on.
so much better like to the day after the race to just do an easy session just like for recovery, and the 2 days after the race just like take a complete
Yeah.
off to speed up the recovery.
So that's it for today. Thank you for being such a great audience. And if you guys have any questions, this is the time for it now. Please let us know.
All right. Thank you so much, Omar and Abdullah. It was truly informative. I personally learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone here thoroughly enjoyed it. We have a couple of questions for now, and for all the other participants, if you have any questions or need any clarifications on any of the points that were mentioned by Abdullah and Omar, please feel free to type it in the chat. I'm going to start with Amna's question. It's the first question we got. Amna, would you like, if you'd like to ask your question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask it. Otherwise, I can ask it on your behalf. So just going to give Amna a second to decide whether she'd like to ask it herself. Okay, so Amna Al-Amir is asking, is saying, thank you for this session. How good is the run analysis given the individuality of the run form? Would new changes cause injuries?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so she says, how good is the run analysis given the individuality of the run form? Would new changes cause injuries? She's asking if changing the running form basically would cause injuries.
Like that's one thing with the analysis. Like once you analyze your flows and mistakes, you need to look at those flows and prioritize them, and know the effects of changing any of these flows. Because some of the flows that if change, like as you just mentioned, like if we change it like to a completely different level, you'll end up having like injuries because you're not used to that kind of change. That's why like when changing a technique or like any different movement of the body, you need to change it gradually, not immediately.
And there is no like as well, there's no like one size fits all. There is not like, of course there are like the main fundamentals, the right things to do them, but then again for the you need to like the person who analyzes it for the athlete, he needs to look at like how to work in this athlete's specific case and how to be able to incorporate them for his case if it's going to cause him injury, and and that's why it's important as well to receive feedback from the athlete, to always stay in touch so they know if these drills or these changes they are affecting like more harm than good, then like to look for different solutions.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
the main goal is obviously to make you more efficient and more and faster and decrease the chance of injuries. The main important of the reason for the analysis is not like to like this is the right technique and you need to do it. No, it's just basically to make you better, make you stronger, and hope that answers it.
And yeah, and as well, like the biomechanics and like the movements of everyone is completely different. So sometimes by changing one thing could lead to like a whole different approach of what we actually need to adopt.
All right. So we have another question from May Al-Haji. May is an amazing Bahraini triathlete who is also a guest.
And also a good friend of ours, yeah.
So May is asking, she's saying thank you. May, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, sure, I can ask. First of all, thank you, Abdallah and Omar. You're both not only good coaches but great athletes as well. You have a great personality, so humble yet so strong. And thank you for the information today. You're welcome. So I have a few questions since you guys as well are from a swimming background. Sometimes when I go to coaches, they do focus on my hand or my arms outside of the water. And I've been struggling with that because I've been trying to change my technique to have a bent elbow, but it kind of resulted in injuries. How important is how my hand look outside of the water? And how important is it for age groupers? I know maybe for younger athletes, you would change it because you'll try to get the best performance out of them. But how important is it for an age grouper like me and the water entry? And my second question is, it has to do with the off season that you spoke about. How long is your off season? And do you take an off season after your A race only? And if you take a complete off season, do you include structured training or unstructured training, or do you do nothing at all and try to unwind to get back into the season?
Right. Thank you, Mike. First of all, thank you for the nice words you said about this earlier. For the thing is about swimming, the most important factor is actually the under the water. The after above the water is just the recovery phase. It doesn't matter how you look. This is just the recovery. Whatever works for you, this is what you should be doing. Under the water is the real work. This is where that the pull happens. This is where the power goes, and this is where everything goes.
Yeah, because like especially like in open water, like the high elbow recovery, it's mainly adopted by swimmers in the pool. But like for open water, sometimes it's not the best approach because like simply because you're swimming with many people around you, and like some races you'll have like waves, currents, and they will be hitting like you'll be hitting your like this high elbow and will just like move you backwards.
So as opposed to in a pool swimming where you'll be having like there will be a steady water with no interactions with anyone. So higher elbow is the most efficient thing for swimmers, for pure swimmers during the pool. However, if you even look at the top athletes in the world, some of the best athletes, some of the fastest swimmers as well, you'd have like only one or two who would be doing high elbow simply because he comes from a swimming background that he has been doing for many, many years. And it's the best way for him and the most comfortable. However, like whatever works for you should be the one you're doing it. Because even as I mentioned, the two of us have almost the exact same speed. We have the exact same times in our trainings in swimming, but each one of us, and you know, because like we go to the pool, you see us sometimes, each one of us has a whole different technique because our bodies are built differently. And for example, Abdallah is more like he has more muscle strength than I do. So I myself, I swim with a more like straight arm than it's high elbow. But again, because simply the two of us have a good catch under the water, we have a good pull, and above the water is just the recovery phase. The purpose of it is just to relax and help you like build strength for the next stroke.
And like also you don't really need to have like symmetrical arm recoveries. Like you can end up like having like one arm like recovering in a straight manner, and the other one is like high elbow. That as well like doesn't really affect. Like as long as that works best for you,
and
then
as long as you are efficient, as long as you are efficient, and as long as you get from point as a racer and you know yourself, the whole purpose of a racer is to get from point A to point B the fastest way possible
with the least effort.
With the least effort, and of course without doing anything wrong that will cause injury. So if you work on these stuff, like you should, like I hope this answered like your first question.
And as well like it can be an answer as well for the first question from Amna, like about a major change in technique. So as May said, she tried to change her straighter arm recovery into a high elbow, and she ended up getting like an injury. So we don't want that to happen.
And May as well, because you have been for a long time into the sport for quite some years now, and you are used to swimming to this technique. So we like you need to like of course to work on the same like the principles, which is like to have a good body posture or to have like a good kick or something that can't be changed only like one way. But then that comes to the hand recovery, it really is an individualism thing.
Yeah.
And this is like I know we say this a lot, we have said it a lot during the whole workshop, but it really is like what we try to say is that triathlon is much more simpler than it actually is. It really is like it differs from one athlete to another. So it's important for the coaches to be able to implement like different needs for their different structures for their athletes' needs, and for the athlete himself to be involved into this coaching and training process, to be able to receive as much information, as much knowledge as possible.
And sorry that we've took like so much time just answering this specific question, because like it's a really important question, and it's really crucial to understand. It's like
to answer it. And for the second question, which is about the off season, as well, it really is like whatever works for you. For example, for us, we never had the same off season twice. But what we usually do, like this is the personal preferences. We take like our off season by the end of the last race of the year. Usually it be like around 2 weeks, where we do like the first week we can take completely off, like just like to not do anything at all. Then would be like unstructured training, just as well it's important to recover physically, but it's more important to recover mentally as well.
And like you can, it's up to you as well, to the athletes. Like you can, like can take like an off season, like a short break during your season, like 1 week or 2 weeks.
Mid-season.
Yeah, and at the end of the season, you can take like 2 to 3 weeks as well, 2 to 3 weeks.
Even up to 4 weeks.
Yeah,
like depending, like it depends on what you have done throughout the year, what your goals are, and what everything going on around.
So as long as you finish your off season and you feel that you recovered physically and mentally,
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
All right. We have another question from Erwa Al-Amoudi. I'm sure Erwa would like to ask the question. Erwa, would you like to ask it yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Noha. Thank you, Abdallah and Omar. Really very nice content. We learned a lot from this workshop. I have two questions. So at the beginning, you talked about the training modules and how it is should be individualized. It's different from person to person. So the question is related to this, which is, as a coach, how long does it take you to figure out the ideal training module for your athlete? Like, what kind of tests do you do? Does it usually take like a couple of months until you figure out what kind of training you should build for him, or like just a couple of weeks? So this is the first question. The second question, because you talked a bit about the long intensity training. So, and there is the other kind of training, which is also common, which the MAF training, the maximum aerobic function training that focuses at a lower heart rate. So can you just compare between the long intensity training versus the MAF training? Just wanted to know your opinion on this. Thank you.
All right. Answering for the first question, like how do you know if the training that you're doing works for the athlete that you're training or not? Simply by performing the tests. Because like as we mentioned before, like you need to test the athlete doing like simple tests, like as we said, like it could be as complicated as lab testing, but like in our case it will be just like simple time trials and check the improvements and the adaptations that you were trying to implement. So for example, let's say like we tested the athlete and that's why I said like collecting data is one thing and knowing what to do with these data is a whole different story. Because like let's say like we tested the athlete, we noticed that their like functional threshold power is okay, but like maximum aerobic power like was low. So we want to prescribe the training plan in order to improve that maximum aerobic power. So like we design a block of training focusing on the maximum aerobic power. Like it will be to range like 4 to 6 weeks, depending on what we are trying to achieve. Then we test again, for if these adaptations that we try to have actually happened or not. If not, then we know that we did something wrong. Then we try to adjust the training plan.
It's basically just like a try and error. So to be able to know how to get the numbers and how to use them, and just trying and looking for results.
And that's why it's really important to have a good understanding of physiology and understanding like the different effects each sessions like have, because otherwise we'll be just like
guessing.
Yeah, like it should be like he's saying like try and error, but like it's not like guessing game, like it should be like educated try and errors based on what you collected. And for your second question, you wanted to know the difference between sorry, what was the first training model? The mass or maximum? The what?
The MAF training, which is maximum aerobic function training, that focuses, you train at a lower heart rate. It was basically founded by Dr. Maffatone, or at least he's the first one who publicized this and used it on many pro triathletes and different kind of athletes. And I'm asking about this because you talked about the non-intensity training, and you focused at this point at the beginning of the workshop, which it seems that they are the opposite.
Yeah. Okay. And the second, what was the second training? So sorry. Okay. So like actually, when I'm talking about low intensity work, it's really important to, especially in the beginning of training, we need to focus on the building that foundation, which is just like low intensity work, because this will be the platform for the high intensity trainings. What will happen if we, and I don't know if I get it right, if like the mass training model you're discussing is that it's only low intensity. If like doing low intensity sessions only will like get you to a certain fitness level. However, it will be at certain point you'll stop improving. So that's why like it's really important to combine the low intensity sessions with higher intensity sessions.
And comes again to your first question, because like there is no like right, there is always like a wrong way in coaching, but there's no like one right way. It always as well comes to like being able to test the athletes and to try, like you can try this block or you can try this block and check the results and see what works best for him.
And for the other way around, if we're just performing most of our sessions at a high intensity or like moderate to high intensity, and that's one of the training errors that age groupers do when they start the sport of triathlon. They will reach a point where they stagnate and they will not be improving at all, and actually they might be going down like backwards. So like it's really important to monitor these high intensity sessions. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
All right, we have a couple more questions. The next one is from Khadr, I think. I'm not sure if you'd like to ask the question yourself or if I should ask it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for the session. Some good stuff here being shared, especially by elites like you. My question is about the model you shared at the beginning, which mentions the 80-20% intensity during the training. Is it, is this applied per session or is it applied over a period of time? And how does it align with the graph you shared later that shows that the stress, the fatigue, technically how fit the athlete is during the preparation phase, and then during the peaking phase, and then during the race phase, and after that? Does it work all over the period? Because I'm sure if someone is preparing for a race or peaking at a certain intensity or a certain stress factor, he can't be training 80% at low intensity all the time, unless he's into long distance training. Or is it the same for ITU athletes at short distances?
So the answer for your question could take like a whole workshop, just like to answer, but just like to keep it simple and short. Like the graph that we shared was like there are certain people of endurance athletes who were tested, like they performed the polarized training. They were tested across like different aspects, which is like the VO2 max and the maximum aerobic power, the functional threshold power and other intensities, and they noticed an improvement over this period of time.
In all of these factors.
Yeah, and like again, like how do you measure the 80-20%? Like for example, let's say like it comes about the time that you spend at each zone. So like for example, a weekly schedule, you need to calculate the time that you're doing like for the whole week, and then try to see how long that you've like trained at each intensity zone, and from there you can calculate the 80-20%.
And the 80-20% as well is like the simplest like factor of it. It's not just like, it's not, you don't, yeah, as you said, you're not gonna be doing like the 80-20 throughout the whole thing. So like you are like the first few periods, it can be alternated. So it's not just like 80% at all times or 20% at all times. Sometimes you'd be doing like 5% at
high intensity,
yeah,
and it could be 95. Sometimes it's like 75 at low intensity. So it's like it changes over the period of time that we are doing.
But it's just like defined by the 80-20 rule,
Yeah.
but it's not like 80-20 rules throughout the whole year.
And this is like only one of the models that I'm not saying that you should follow this training model.
Yeah.
It's one of the
most
like,
common models,
yeah.
and we just sharing it. We're
And
sharing
like,
it.
and even like, because like as a competitive athlete as well, like as you mentioned, like in the ITU, they need to train at different metabolic intensities. So it's not only like high intensity or low intensity. Like they're performing as well like different workouts at different intensities. Like in the middle, like you need to train across all the metabolic zones in order to achieve your peak performance.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you guys. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. I live very close to the mosque, so you're gonna hear the prayer. I'm so sorry about this, but Lean has a question. Lean, would you like to ask the question yourself?
Hi guys, hi Abdullah and Omar. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was absolutely great. Uh, Actually, I think you guys answered my question. I just wanted to add on to May's question about off season. So initially, I mean, usually I take a week to two. I mean, I'd say a week to 10 days off after every race season. But given the COVID situation, it kind of happened suddenly, and I realized that I didn't really have an off season. So I feel like I'm kind of in that phase where I'm finding training a bit of a burden. So I'm just thinking, how important is it for someone to have an off season? Is it absolutely a preference, or can I just keep doing what I'm doing, just maintaining low training? Like, I mean, you guys answered my question, but I just wanted, if you guys can kind of reiterate, that would be great.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, Lean. For those of you who don't know, Lean is actually the latest addition for the Palestinian national triathlon team, and she's like, hopefully, it's going to be like the first female triathlon. And so, thank you for joining us, Lean. For your question, it's like with the going on with COVID-19, no one was expecting it. So it's important like to take it easy. Like right now, my brother is doing like a different training than what I'm doing, simply because like I see it more of an opportunity as well for me to relax mentally, because I've been like doing training so hard for the last couple of years. And this is just like, this is my personal preference. I'm taking it a bit easy. It might not be the right thing, and I know it's not the right thing compared, for example, to my brother. So it's basically, again, like if you feel that you need to train, you can train. If you feel that you need a bit more time to relax, even in off season, you can relax. The most important factor is like not to over stress yourself, and to be actually to be relieved mentally and not just physically. And this is the whole purpose of the off season, especially right now with COVID-19.
And regarding the importance of the off season, it's really important to have an off season for all athletes, because like you can't be like you'll not be able to train like for a really long time without having like some time off, because like simply your body will not be able to handle it. So during the off season, you'll be recovered like mentally and physically as well, like
Just
all,
recharging, basically.
yeah. So like it's really important to have an off season, like after your season, or whenever you feel like you really need an off season.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Further.
All right. Another question from Mohammed Al Harbi. Mohammed, would you like to ask the question yourself? Okay. I think I'm gonna ask it on his behalf. So Muhammad says, okay. Muhammad says that he always seems to be slower towards the end of the race, especially during the second part of the run, despite having a proper nutrition plan. What might be the reason, and how to fix it?
It depends on your conditioning, so and your training. If you're really not ready for what's coming, and your training is not like structured to enable you to be consistent during the race, then there's something with your training plan and like your conditioning as well.
So we can't tell for sure, for example, what's going on in your specific situation. You should be able like to find out yourself, and you should be able to look like if you're saying that your nutrition is good, then you need to look at the other factors. For example, like your trainings, or even like some simple stuff that can make a huge difference that you'd be surprised from, such as like your tri suit, is it too tight? Your shoes, is it like not properly? Like these small things that can be overlooked sometimes, it can actually make a huge difference. And like Even like some stuff like your bike position, even if you're comfortable on the bike, maybe it can affect in your run. So like there are so many things to take into consideration that we can't tell for sure from where we are right now. You just need to be like, you need to do the research yourself and try different things and find out.
Also, you need to look at your bike training, because like in order to run really good after swim and bike run, after a swim and bike, you really need to be conditioned really good on the bike as well. So like after you're really conditioned on the bike, then you'll be able to run really good, rather than just like focusing on the run and giving like not that much of attention to the bike. That could be one of the reasons as well.
But we can't know for sure. So
All right. Another note from Firas Al Hamoud. He's saying he missed a part of the workshop. Can we get the recording? We're planning to share the recording with everyone. But also, if Abdullah and Omar, I was planning to ask you in private if you could, and if you don't mind, to share the presentation. It would also be very helpful to share it
Yeah,
with
sure.
sure.
and for anyone who is interested in getting a copy of the presentation, just send us an email at coach@jiddatribe.com, and we will reply to you with the file, basically. So we have another question from Muhammad. He's saying, how important are strength and conditioning training sessions for triathlon?
Oh, it's really important. Like you need to have a really good strength and conditioning program.
Because this is what's going to carry you basically throughout your sessions, and most importantly, it's just like an injury prevention as well. Even if it has no direct effect on making you faster or something, at least it will make you less likely to get injured. So it really is important, and it's something that you should be incorporated during the training plan. Even something as simple as like one 30-minute session of core exercise one time a week for it. That's at least.
So it's really important.
Yeah.
All right, and one last question again from May. May, would you like to ask it?
Yes, of course. Actually, it wasn't my question. It was by Ahmed Abdul Ghaffar. It has to do with race weight, and I'm interested in it as well, because we see athletes all the time are worried about their weight. They always want to lose weight. They always want to be lean, like throughout the season, whether it's their C race, B race, A race. So when should we reach our race weight? Should we be reaching it by our C race, or should we reach it by our A race? And can we hold it for a very long time?
So actually, when you're starting like a really high training load, and you're going through a good training block, you don't wanna, or like in the beginning of the season of your season, you don't wanna actually lose weight, because like you'll be like doing like a lot of hard sessions, or like a lot of workload,
and your body is just demanding this energy like to get it through it. So like the weight thing, I know it's something that can be like can be stressing sometimes, but it's something that should really like not be taken that much into consideration. Of course, like when we talked about tapering, it's important like with the last few weeks where you stop eat, like when you like decrease your quantity of the food intake, because the volume goes down. During this period, you might end up losing like a kg or something. This is good, but as well, like losing too much weight can also like counterback and can also affect you
like your health, and like even like your power on the bike. So like whatever works for you, just stick with it. Like because even like if we look at different athletes, like top different athletes, you'll have that they have different body weights and different body composition. So like for example, let's say Christian Blumenfeld, like he has like different body weight compared to Mario Mola, where Mario Mola is like really lean, and Christian Blumenfeld is a little bit
more powerful, like he uses more power,
and like a little bit bulky. So but both of them are winning. So
however, if you know that there's like a specific weight where you perform well at and something that you have gained throughout the years, obviously you need to like to make sure that you hit this number at an A race. You don't want to hit it at a B or a C race, because these are just like a training races. You don't want to take them to like they are just part of your trainings. You want them part of your training plan. You don't want to put too much focus into these stuff, because as well like it will end up like decreasing your level. No.
And also like the weight thing, it can have like 3 to 4% like increase in your performance. However, you don't want to lose sight of the main picture and like the 90% or like the 95% of what actually can lead to a great performance.
Mhm.
We can't hear
We
you.
can't hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. I think that was all the questions that we received. Thank you, May, for bringing my attention to Ahmed's question. I'm sorry, Ahmed, I missed the question by mistake. That's it, I think, for today. If anyone has any last questions, you can, I think we can give you like 3 more minutes to ask them. Meanwhile, we normally take a group picture after each session. So if anyone would like to be on the group picture, just please turn on your video cameras so we can so you can be in the picture. Okay. Hi, Ata. Ata is our head of coaching and nutrition, and he's the one who's been arranging this with you gentlemen. So just introducing.
Thank you so much, Abdallah and Omar. It was a wonderful session.
Thank you
So
for being the middleman and handling all the communications. We really appreciate it.
All right. So great to see everyone. I'm gonna take the picture in a few seconds. I'm gonna take a screenshot and a picture with my mobile. So 1, 2, 3. And another one with the mobile, just to make sure we got it. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Great to see you all. And thank you so much, Omar and Abdullah, for the informative session. We truly benefited a lot from it. I just wanted to bring everyone's attention that you are offering these services to athletes, and if you want to just mention how people can reach you just one more time for everyone to know if they wanted to get in touch with you. And of course, we'll be sharing the information with anyone who asks. So,
okay. So should I tell you now or just send you the information? Or
we have your email if it's the same email.
Yeah,
same email.
Anyone can reach us through our
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah. You have as well our athletic email as well. We have the working email, which is omar@career-me.com. But again, like you, any sort of communication, anything you can find, just use it. It's okay.
Perfect.
Right.
Thank you again so much. Always an honor to have you, and I wish you a lovely evening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.